Hello everyone, this is Venkatesh, your host for the podcast Leading Self and Others. Today we have a guest named Mr. Robert Stevenson, who is an expert at building a high performance culture, improving efficiency, and accelerating growth. He is one of the most widely sought after speakers in the world today, as well as a best selling author. Robert was recently ranked number 4 in the world by LinkedIn Thinkers 360 as a change management thought leader and influencer. He has owned 5 companies, sold internationally in over 20 countries, along with holding positions from salesman to chief executive officer. Robert's client list rates like a who's who in business. Companies like FedEx, Prudential, Lockheed Martin, Carrier, Chevron, American Express, Berkshire Hathaway continue to still rely on him for a fresh, unique perspective on business's most crucial issues. To reiterate his best-selling book's title, it is How to Soar Like an Eagle in a World Full of Turkeys. Go and check it out. So I am so glad to meet you, Mr. Robert.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share some stuff with you.
So you have been visiting several countries, maybe 20 odd countries. You have been visiting, and you had speaking engagements and business coaching and training experiences for a long time. You had your hard times, be it is professional as well as personal relationship building. But could you please explain any of your hardship, that how you were able to win that situation and come across?
Well, my favorite book of all times is a book written back in the 20s by Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it's been published and republished and republished and republished. And what's amazing about the book is a book that was written in the 20s is still so valuable today.
It's fresh.
And it has just so much material. Forget technology. Just talk about how to deal with people. Because it was Weiner, who is the CEO of LinkedIn, said the biggest problem that people have in business is lack of soft skills. Because when you go into business and you make a mistake, and you're gonna make mistakes, you can deny it, dumbest thing that you could ever do, or you can own up to it. You know, my statement has always been, when you make a mistake, call the guy up right on the phone and say, we blew it. All right, but let me tell you how fast we're going to fix it. And then you bring the resources of your organization down upon it to fix it. People understand that they make mistakes, so if you own up to it, then you eliminated 80% of the problem. You've owned up to it. Now what you've got to do is they'll give you the opportunity to fix it, and when you fix it, then they'll stay with you. So to me, when you look at it from the mistakes that you made, I remember I had one client that we shipped him a bunch of product, and he calls me up, jumping up and down like a shortstop, all upset about the product getting there, and I'm like going, what's the deal? I had no idea what the problem was. We were supposed to ship, we did ship, we shipped on time. He supposedly got all the things that he wanted. But what it was, when I found out later, it was a cash flow problem with him. Mm-hmm. And he had forgotten that he had automatic reorders. And so when we shipped it there, he didn't have the money for it, and he was embarrassed. And I learned from the book How to Soar Like, How to Win Friends and Influence People. When that's the issue, or when someone you need to find out what the issue is, but then all of a sudden you have to have empathy for the situation. And so rather than me blowing up and going, I did what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it, and ship it when you told me to ship it, and then you got it there, so pay me. Well, then you just eliminate a customer. I mean, they might pay you, but they're going to hate you for life. So I just very simply asked, what's the deal? What's the situation here, Bill? And he said, Rob, cash flow's not good right now. And I said, not a problem. When can you pay me? He said, well, can I push it out for another 6 months? Absolutely. Because shipping it back's not going to do me any good. Destroying the relationship's not going to do me any good. Having empathy and understand that he had a rough patch at that time, Okay, I'll do what I need to do to help you out. And then you have a customer for life. I mean, right now with COVID and all these people that are having difficulties trying to sell, my statement is to have empathy for the client. What situation are they in? I look at sales, and what I've learned in all aspects of sales is if you truly care about the customer and helping them become profitable, you'll become profitable. If you just sell to get your commission and go on and get your profitability, you're going to lose. So the biggest thing that I've ever learned in going out there when there's a mistake made is, one, admit it, and then two, fix it as fast as possible, because then they'll stay with you. And then one other thing for the new people out there that are just getting into business, when someone asks you a question and you don't have the answer, don't fake it. I call it blowing smoke. You panic because, oh my God, they're going to think I'm stupid and I don't have the answer. The best thing that you can do is very simply say, I don't have the answer for that, but I will in 3 hours. I've got a big company behind me. I got some other people I can go talk to, so I will get you that answer. But if you blow smoke, if you try and come up with an answer that's not the answer, you've done 2 things. Number one, you've given them an incorrect answer. Number 2, they'll never trust you again. All right, because they ask you a question and you try to fake it. And that's not going to work in business. To me, integrity is a critical part of the game. So when you start talking about how you fix it, admit it. When you have a problem, admit it, and then care about the client. Trust, confidence, and rapport are critical things in making a company grow. So create the trust, create the rapport, and create the confidence by fixing it.
So you will never know everything in your life.
No. That's for sure.
There will be always something you don't know, and you should be open to learn.
Yes.
Acceptance is first thing, I believe so. Accepting the reality that you do not know is a first thing. Right.
Well, I mean, because when I was 24 years old, I thought I knew everything, just like you said, and I didn't. And so what you do is you become stupid. So and at that age, one of the greatest things that you can do is you can listen, because a lot of times the clients will tell you what they want in the first place. I learned a long time ago. Usually, the wisest person in the room is the person not speaking. They're the person that's doing what? Listening to the situation. Kenichi Omei used to be a strategist in Tokyo for McKinsey's operation, and he wrote a book years ago called The Mind of the Strategist. And in that book, one of the most profound statements I've ever heard, he says, a problem identified is a blessing. He says, because you can't fix what you don't know. So if you got to find out what the problem is. You got to find out what the problem is with the client. You got to find out what the problem is with your employees. You got to find out what the problem is in the business environment. What's the problem? Once you've identified the problem, then you can start putting your efforts towards doing what? Fixing it. So that's what I learned a long time ago. Ask good questions and then shut up and listen. And a lot of times they'll help you fix the problems themselves. But yeah, you're right. You sure as heck don't know it all. So, seek out mentors, seek out smart people. I mean, I have all kinds of people I can pick up the phone and call up and ask a question and sit there and say, how would you handle this? I had a problem 2 days ago, or an issue 2 days ago. And I called a dear friend of mine and I said, how would you approach this? Now I'm pretty good at this. I've been doing this a long time. I should know how to, but I just wanted a second opinion. It's like when I edited my first book, and then I paid to have it edited, and then I paid a couple of other people that have it edited. And guess what? There were still typos in there. How does that happen? I mean, you have all these people that you pay for, and you go, how did they miss that? So it took like 3 printings before you finally got them all out. And someone said, well, you didn't edit it. What do you mean I didn't edit it? Yeah, I edited it. I had it edited 4 times by professionals. So if you look at that and you go, it happens. But you just go with it.
True. Even in my case, when I send my book manuscript to some people for their testimonials or endorsements, I used to get this reply: this book yet to get edited, so please get this done and then come back to me. I would wonder, I have done twice and thrice already the editing part. How could I how could I feel that? So definitely, I could resonate with what you are saying there.
Oh yeah, you can appreciate that. I mean, oh yeah, I've had people rip me. But I remember one guy who wrote a best-selling book, and he had he had it edited by professionals, but there were still mistakes in the book. And this guy was just ripping him, tearing him up, saying, "I can't believe you have mistakes in your book." And he said, "Well, it's a bestseller. Do you have one?" And the guy's like, "Oops, I think I'll shut up now." Yeah, so it's you do the best you can.
True. See, during those hard times, the hard times that are created by own self by committing some errors or mistakes, or through someone else committing some errors or mistakes that impacting our life. Okay, in either way, we are not feeling good. We are feeling hard to survive that particular situations. How do you conduct yourself? How do you deal with yourself? How is your inner environment is being handled by you?
It took years to perfect this one, and I still don't have it perfected. But when an error has occurred, and I mean, it's like you spilled milk is on the table. It's there, all right. There's no denying it. It's there. You screwed up. You made a mistake, and so where do we go from here? And the biggest thing that you do, in my personal opinion, is what's the lesson learned? All right, how did we get here? How did we make that mistake? But what's the lesson learned? Because to me, it's not a failure if you learn something. It's an experience. All right, and that's the biggest thing we're trying to figure out is that we made a mistake. Now, how did we make a mistake, and how are we going to fix it? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? All right. I had an acronym called FUBAR. It's fouled up beyond all repair. Mistakes. And I tell companies, I say, look, how many of you in this room have had, when I do a speaking engagement, and there'll be thousands of people in the audience, I say, how many of y'all have ever made a mistake? All these hands go up. I said, how many have ever made it twice? And all these hands go up. And I'm like going, oh, and how about your employees? How many of them have made that mistake? And hands go up. And so I said, one thing that you can do as a company is write a FUBAR book. Write down the mistakes that you've made. And then when you hire a new employee, you walk up to him and say, excuse me, we've already made these mistakes. We don't need you to make these mistakes. We need you to go make some new mistakes. But it's amazing how many companies have already made these mistakes, and then we have their other employees make the same damn mistake. And you're like going, what? Why? You've already spent a whole lot of money making that mistake. Let's go make some new ones. But let's don't make these. So pass out that and learn from them. And sometimes it's good to just, when you bring in people from other companies, ask them to share some mistakes that they've made. And first of all, it gets people to laugh. Because, oh, Bill over there, he made a mistake. And, I know we don't have enough time, but I could give you countless stories about mistakes that I've made in the speaking industry. That you just learn and go with it. And when there's a couple thousand people out there, you really gotta go with it because they're all watching. So my statement is, what's the lesson learned?
So during failures and setbacks, what do you recommend people to consider? Because the term consider is something I am very specific now, because in social media I could see you have been coming up with consider this tag. Okay?
Yes.
So definitely that is quite intriguing, because you had your own style of making people, reminding them something they should know that. Okay. So you are not someone advising people, but you are recommending through the tag called consider this.
Yes.
So that's actually quite non-egoistic approach when treating others. That's highly laudable. First of all, I would say that. Okay, coming back to the question, during failures and setbacks, what do you recommend people to consider?
What should they consider? Well, yeah. All right, first of all, how did you get here? That's a problem. As Kenichi Omei said, a problem identified is a blessing. So how did we get here? We did the following 3 mistakes, and you gotta own up to it. What caused it? Did we cut corners? Did we not buy the proper materials? I remember I had a manufacturing company. We manufactured furniture, and we were manufactured in Florida, and we sold it to a company in Minneapolis, and we sold it, and we shipped to them in the winter, and we used high quality material, high quality glue, all the best materials possible. But when we set it up there, it was sitting basically under heaters in department stores, and the doors worked. And the buyer called me up screaming at the top of her lungs, just screaming, "You sold me inferior furniture." And I'm like going, "No, ma'am, we sure as heck didn't." So we had to find out why did they work? The big question was why. All right. And so we finally figured out, it's too long of a story to get into, but we finally figured out why they worked. And so what we did is we remanufactured the doors. We shipped them up there to them. And guess who showed up? I own the company. I showed up in bib overalls and boots, all right, with a hat on. And she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to go to each one of your stores, and with my people, we're going to replace the doors and put on the new doors, but I'm also going to explain why they worked." So they knew we didn't use inferior material, because we used the best material that was out there. But it was a situation that they had been made in Florida that had unbelievable moisture, and we sent it to Minneapolis where there was no moisture in the room. I mean, it was being sucked out with the drums. Long story short, we kept the client. We replaced everything. We owned up to the mistake. But the one thing I did own up to was the fact that I gave her, it was inferior material. It was the best material. It was the best, but it was a situation, that happened, and we fixed it. So when you look at it, so how did I get here? How did I make a mistake? And I called all kinds of manufacturers all over the country trying to find out what went wrong. And then but the biggest thing is we fixed it, and we fixed it fast. We had the doors made and on in a week and a half, all over the state. So it was hard to do, but we did it. Because you're trying to keep customers, so you got to make it happen fast. So as I said, how did we get here? And then and don't forget the blame. Everybody gets into the blame game. Well, John did this, and Bill did that, and Mary did this. No. How are we going to come together and fix it? And that's the biggest thing, because the day you forget you're in business for the customer is the day you go out of business. So while you're fixing this, the entire time, when your whole mind is on who? The customer. How do we fix it for the customer? Because they're number one. You don't have customers, you know what I mean?
So, from what you have said, I could also observe one important fact is that the type of questions what we ask ourselves is so important, right? The questions you ask yourself, right?
The question that you ask yourself is a critical one. Yeah. And my first question is going to be, how do we get here?
Yeah.
I want to identify the problem. So I can resolve the problem. Or I can go call other people who will help me resolve the problem. But, what's the problem? How do we get here? So it doesn't happen again.
So the awareness precedes change. You mean that, right? Awareness precedes change. So that brings change.
Yes, absolutely. It's automatic. And you can't, when you find out what you're going to have to do to fix it, sometimes you're not going to want to do that. But what's your course? Do you have a choice? And if you don't have a choice, then you do it. What are your alternatives? What are your choices? What's the best way to do it? But so the awareness is, as you said, awareness is going to cause change. And change is the number one thing out there. It's the only constant that we have. I mean, you think about my industry. All right, I'm a speaker. For 30 years, as of 2 years ago, for 30 years, I had never done a keynote speech in my office in my life.
Wow.
Okay? 2 years ago, the world shut down. All right? I mean, shut down. 100 engagements that were on the books, already booked, that I was going to be doing over the next year and a half, were gone. Agents were calling up left and right. Everybody was canceling. The world shut down. So my business shut down. All right? It was just like, there's no speaking engagements. So how did we get here? I don't really have to worry about that, because we're here. I didn't cause COVID. All right. I didn't make a mistake. I didn't shut down my business. But what was my alternative? My only alternative, because no one was doing live speaking engagements, was to do what? Learn how to do remote, like we're doing right now. All right.
Wow.
So, and when you start talking about it, I mean, what's interesting about this is, okay, we're on Zoom and I'm talking to you. Now, when I look at you, I love looking at you and talking to you so I can get your reaction. But I really need to be looking here. All right. Why? Because now it's my eyes to your eyes. So what I needed to do is I needed to study. How do you do speaking engagements? How do you do keynotes? How can you create a studio where I can get to the audience? And what's very interesting about this? Now let's go back in here. All right. If I'm talking to an audience of 1,000 people, I talk to this, and I don't talk to one person at a time. I don't care if it's 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people. I'm only talking to one person at a time. And I'm looking here, and I'm looking here, and I'm looking here in the audience. But you know what's interesting about doing the studio keynote is now I'm talking to you the entire time. I got eye contact. So I had to learn how to talk to the red dots. And rather than when I want to come down here and I want to look at you than my screen because I can see you better and I can relate better with you. Well, on a Zoom thing, that's not a problem. But on a keynote, I need to be talking here. All right. So I had to learn and adapt to the situation of how to do that. And then what I've been doing with salespeople is I've been trying to teach them how they can still contact their clients, not get on an airplane and fly there. They can still contact their clients. They can still make their sales presentation, and they can still have eye contact. Right there, looking in the camera and getting all the information to the person and sell. All right, so they can still do their job. Now, are they going to be as comfortable with it? No. Are they going to like it? No. I want to go right back to here and look at you on the screen. I want to go right back to the stage. I speak because I love being on stage, connecting with people because I get to see the people. All right. So it's even when I'm in this room and I'm looking at this camera, I'm still torn to, I want to see you. All right. So when you look at it, I had to change. And that's the whole thing. Did I have a choice? None. Oh, I mean, excuse me, I had a choice. I could either speak or not speak. So I took a month off and I studied and I called experts and said, how do I do this? And they taught me. And the next thing you know, I'm doing virtual keynotes all over the world. So you change, you adapt. I mean, COVID has taught us a lot.
That's true.
I mean, it has taught us a lot.
It has exposed our unpreparedness as well.
Oh, yes. Totally.
Great. So one final question to you. In your opinion, what are the two most important personality traits or strengths someone would need to work in leading oneself effectively?
Great question. Love that question. I get it asked a lot. Years ago, I wrote a book called 52 Essential Habits for Success. And there, what are the 52? And it was interesting that, and I had my number one in there, and I had it in first position. And a dear friend of mine said, take it out of first position. I'm like, what is it? That's my number one. She says, it doesn't matter. She says, put it last, because what do you want to leave them with? What's the last thing you want to leave them with? The most important. And I was like, that's interesting. But the two that to me, the undeniable, the ones that make it happen, are number one, discipline. I can tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, why to do it. I can go find other people that can tell you how, when, where, and why to do it. I can get all the information whatsoever. We can go to school, we can go online, we can do everything else, and we can say, this is how you do it. But if you don't have the discipline to do it, it's all commentary. So the first thing, when you start talking about it, you're going to take it to the next level, is discipline. But that's really not the first. The first, as far as I'm concerned, that I put at the end of the book, is integrity. As far as I'm concerned, if you don't have integrity, then we're never going to do business together. And it might take me a little while to find out, but you've got to have integrity. When you tell them you're going to do it, you do it. When you tell them you're going to do it at a certain time, you do it. I don't care what you have to do to get it done. It's your integrity, it's your word, it's your character, it's your honesty. It's like I said, when someone asks you a question, you don't know the answer, say, I don't know the answer to that, but I promise you in 3 hours, I'll have the answer for you. And in 3 hours, you have the answer. All right? But you don't lie about it. Because, and my dad taught me this a long time ago. He said, you don't have to have a good memory. You can just tell it like it is. Gosh, what did I tell them? I skewed the information just a little bit so it'll make me look a little bit better. What did I say exactly? Oh, gosh. Well, if you just tell them what happened, you don't have to go, gosh, what did I say exactly? You just tell them what happened. And the story comes out the same way every time. So as far as I'm concerned, and when I'm looking to hire people, and integrity is hard to find. So you just kind of ask them some questions about what they've done in the past and how they've handled certain things, and see if you can kind of pull it out of them, and see if you can get some real answers. All right. But then the other side of going is, if I can't get that, I'm going to look at the discipline side, because as I said, people have asked me, how do you hire someone? And this is a crazy answer. I said, it's twinkle. And they go, twinkle? What in God's name is twinkle? I said, it's in their eyes. It's that twinkle in their eyes. When you ask them a question, you see them light up. In fact, for those of you listening, let me give you an analogy. I have two people of exactly the same experience. They've been here for 5 years, and I'm going to promote one of them. All right? Both have been here for 5 years. This one is always in a good mood. This one's not. Who am I going to promote?
The good one.
Good mood. Every time. Now let me show you the scary one. Okay, I got two people. This one has 5 years experience. This one has 10 years experience. And I'm going to promote one of them. This one, the 5-year experienced person, always in a good mood. The 10-year experienced person, not always in a good mood. Who am I going to promote? Well, you know where I'm going with this. Good mood. I can teach you everything that you need to know. All right? And I can and help you get the experience out there. But the one thing I can't teach you is the attitude that you need to have to take this forward. That's what makes companies great. People. All right. So when I talk to entrepreneurs about growing their business, and I sit there and I say, your first hire, the first person that you hire other than yourself, all right, when you get it, is a critical person, because now what you're doing is you're starting to clone. You're cloning the culture. What do we want this company to be? And as an entrepreneur, you've got to learn to delegate. You've got to learn to pass things off to other people. You've got to learn to count on those people. But the big thing, you don't want to micromanage them. But the biggest thing is, if you hire good people, all right, people that you can trust, that you've learned about, and let them do their job and treat them special, then you're going to phenomenally succeed. And probably one of the last points I'd like to make on these 2 points that you asked on discipline and integrity. And this came from Mary Kay. Mary Kay Cosmetics started a company with her own money when she was, I think, in her 50s. All right, and she grew it from 0 to $3 billion in sales and hundreds of thousands of salespeople. All right, and she has a motto. She says, act like someone has a sign hanging from their neck that says, treat me special. So in every aspect of what I've done in business that's helped make me successful is everybody that I meet, people that work for me, people that they're subcontractors, or people that I employ as far as in doing a speaking engagement, or they employ me. Anybody that I do business with, I treat them all special. I mean, we didn't. My dad was military. We didn't have money, and he said, I don't care who you're dealing with. I don't care if you're dealing with a janitor. You're dealing with the yard guy. He says you treat everybody just exactly like they're the president of a company. And so, as she said, treat me special as they're hanging on their neck. Well, that's how I see people on everything that I do. And so when you start treating companies that way, and they find out that you're treating them special, sometimes you can charge them a higher price. They don't care. Why? Because you're taking care of them. And they like doing business with you, and they trust you. So the two that you got to have is integrity and discipline. And then after that, treat them special. Treat everybody special.
Last but never the end, buckle up to get inspired and more realistic thoughts from Venkatesh. Make sure to subscribe now, just so you don't miss any episode. If you think this podcast has inspired you and may help someone you care, please share. Leading self and others.